guys? UFC Fanboys here, and we've got a fight prediction for you. UFC 255, Figueiredo versus Perez, and Shevchenko versus Maia. Both flyweight titles are on the line, the male and the female. We will be starting this from the early prelims, though, so those are the prelims that are on Fight Pass, UFC, or ESPN, ESPN2, depending on where you live. So, yeah, let's get down to it. So, as for normal, first off the bat, we got a lot of new guys that we might not be too familiar with. Louis Koska, I believe is how you pronounce it. I think that's Italian. I think that's how you pronounce it. Versus Sasha Palatnikov, Russian descent from Hong Kong, though, so that's interesting. So we've got the 7-0 Louis Koska. It's his debut in the UFC. It's also Palatnikov's debut in the UFC. The American is 5'9". The Chinese, the Chinese man, I guess, that ethnic Hong Konger. I don't even know what you'd call him. He's not Han, that's for sure. Anyway, Sasha is 6'1". This is a 170-pound fight. Sasha has a 1.5-inch reach advantage, 72.5 inches. So both men have roughly the same reach, obviously the same weight. It's not a heavyweight fight. But Sasha is 3 inches taller. The big difference, though, I think is going to come down to the wrestling. I believe Koska, if I am not mistaken, is a wrestler, an All-American wrestler. I could be wrong on that. Let me double check. I don't want to... Louis Koska. How do you pronounce it? Yeah. Believe he is a wrestler. I cannot find anything. So maybe he's not. Maybe he is. Maybe he's not. Louis Koska wrestling. Yep. Yeah. Okay. He is a wrestler. He's USA Wrestling. Yeah. I thought so. Okay. So of course we got an American, and the interesting thing is I'm not sure if Palatnikov is Russian trained or Hong Kong trained, because if he was trained in Hong Kong, his wrestling won't be near as good. But like the Russians, they have an amazing program. Like a lot of years for winning Russian nationals is as hard, if not harder, than winning the world championships, because sometimes the top 2 or 3 guys in your weight class in the world are all from Russia. So if he's Russian trained, he'll be a very good wrestler. He's obviously ethnically Russian, but I'm not really sure where that's going to go. But, I'm going to give in my opinion, I think Koska is going to win this one. He's still got the 7-0 record. He's undefeated. That American wrestling background for sure. Sasha is a little bit more of an unknown. He's coming from a place that tends to not do as well when they face American fighters. A lot of Asian fighters look really good until they face... essentially until they face wrestlers. Once they face European and American wrestlers from like that Greco-Roman tradition, a lot of those guys get messed up. Like that fancy shit works until it doesn't. There's always guys that are exceptions. Like, ironically, a lot of them are Western too, like Machida and I guess Machida's mixed, but Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. But usually that like a lot of the guys that come out of that background, they don't fare as well once they get put against really good wrestlers. So that being said, I'm not even sure what Sasha's fight background is. It's he's from Warrior Academy. Let's see. Sasha Palatnikov. See his Instagram. He looks to be a kickboxer. Yeah, from the looks of it, he's possibly a Muay Thai background. But, yeah, it looks like he's got a Muay Thai. Oh, he's doing... Yeah, he's definitely a Muay Thai background from the looks of his Instagram. Almost everything he's doing is Muay Thai. Which is not, that's not looking good. So, yeah, the wrestler versus the Muay Thai guy, and it doesn't look like the Muay Thai guy does any wrestling. So, Louis Koska will probably win that one. All right, and now on to the next fight. Kyle Dokaus versus Dustin Stolfus. It's a very difficult name to pronounce. I'm not sure what ethnic background that is. I'm actually going to Google that real quick. Let's see. How the fuck do you even pronounce that shit? Stoltfuss. It's German. Huh. Oh, Mennonites and Amish. Okay. Well, he's probably strong as fuck then. What's his record? 13-1. Not surprised. Versus Kyle Dokaus. See where this guy's from. These unknown guys are always the most interesting, just because you never know. It's yeah. He lost to Braden Allen in the UFC. It's BJJ background. Amateur record 5-4. Man, he really hit his stride once he went pro though. Although, to be fair, the way the American system works, it's actually kind of easier to do pro than amateur. It's kind of weird because, like, in different places, they have different rules, right? So, in some countries, you literally, in Canada, it varies depending on province, but, like, some provinces, you can't go pro until you have 10 amateur fights with a winning record. So, in order to make pro in Canada, you have basically two options. You go to the States, which a lot of guys do, because you can just get a pro fight. Like, you can just walk in there and get a pro fight depending on the state. Or you have your 10 fights. So it's kind of funny, but like in some places, the low-level pros are a lot worse than amateurs are, which, I mean, could explain why he went 4-5 or 5-4 as an amateur, and then prior to the UFC was undefeated as a pro. Yeah, that's interesting though. But he also looks really like almost sickly skinny. He's got a weird body type, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Stolfus on this one. I think Stolfus just like he's just so much more physically intimidating from like the looks of the two guys. Like Dokaus just I don't even know what to say about Dokaus. He looks like an alien, but and yeah, that amateur record's hella suspect when. So, that being said, though, it's always hard to tell with these young, like these. I shouldn't even say young. This one guy looks like he's like fucking 40, but with these new guys into the UFC, because a lot of the time when they come into the UFC, you don't really know how good the competition they were facing outside the UFC was. Some regional circuits are a lot more difficult than others. Like the American Midwest is an insanely deep regional circuit because they've got such a good wrestling program. Another good, like the American West Coast is another really good one. And then there's other regional circuits that are absolute trash. Like if you like Japan, honestly, as bad as it sounds, because they're kind of like one of the homes of martial arts. It's pretty rare that guys come out of the Japanese regional circuits and do well, especially in the last like 15 years or so. They did really well early on, but as knowledge spread, especially knowledge of jiu-jitsu, and as wrestling got more popular again in Western countries because of the UFC, the Japanese fighters started doing a lot worse on average. All right, next up, we got Alan Jubin versus Jared Gooden. Wow, I'm surprised Alan's fighting this low on the card. I remember when they were trying to push this guy as the next big thing. Because, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, he's a fucking pretty boy. Looks like he could be a model. You'd want to push him. We got Jared Gooden. Okay. Both same height. Gooden's got a 3-inch reach advantage. I haven't seen any of Gooden's fights. I've seen Allen fight before. Jared Gooden. Maybe I have seen this guy fight. Let's see. What's he look like? I don't know if I've seen him before. Who's he fought? Jared Knight, Train Gooden. He beat. Okay, so this is his first UFC fight. He hasn't really beat anyone big. Pretty good record though. And yeah, Juban is obviously I wouldn't say on his way out. What is his record actually? Because I remember when they were pushing him as the next big thing, there's no way. Well, they were trying to at least. There's no way he had that many losses. Because usually, like, it's really rare that they try to push somebody. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, half his losses are within his last 4 fights. So this might be that'll be interesting then, because this might be the fight that they're. It basically looks like Jared Gooden's coming in and Alan Juban is on his way out. At least that's what it looks like from the UFC. For Juban, this looks like it might be his win or you're gone fight, which might light a fire under his ass. And Jared Gooden, on the other hand, it might be, hey, this is your one chance. Although usually the UFC does 3-fight contracts, so maybe Jared, like, it's not. Maybe it's just a good like test in the waters for Jared. Maybe they're not too hot on him. That being said, though, where this card is placed on the prelims, where it's like basically the main fight of the early prelims, with Juban being a guy that at one point they were trying to push pretty heavily, Jared Gooden being a newcomer, it all I don't know much about Gooden, but I know enough about Juban. I think that the UFC put this fight here and put these guys against each other to try and build up Gooden. So I'm gonna guess that the UFC knows something I don't, and that Jared Gooden is going to win this fight. All right, next up we got Daniel Rodriguez versus Nicholas Dalby. So we got the American versus the Danish man. 6'1" for the American, 5'10" for the Dane. Similar reaches. The Dane has a half-inch reach advantage for the arms and a 2-inch reach advantage for the legs. This one is going to be really interesting because I'm not sure. Yeah, Dalby. Huh. Is Dalby training with what's it called? Is Nicholas Dalby, where's he training? I can't is he one of the Swedish guys, or like which camp is he from? Or is he from a new camp? Oh no, he actually trains in Copenhagen. Okay. It's karate and jiu-jitsu. That's interesting. Okay, then what do we got for Rodriguez? Daniel Rodriguez. He's an American. I'm going to guess he's either going to be wrestling or boxing because American martial artist, blah, 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 blah. 33, Combate America. Oh, yeah, he's the guy from the Contender Series. Ooh, that's... Yeah, versus Dalby. This is an interesting one again. I don't know. They got some good fights on this card, like good close fights. The UFC matchmakers are always really good. There's hardly ever blowout fights. Overturned. Ooh, Ronson tested positive. Ooh. That being said, no contest, surface deemed unsafe. What the fuck? I gotta Google that after this. But, yeah, Ronson. So we lost to Jesse Ronson, I'm guessing. When the fight via submission in round 1, Mattel Dion. Oh, it's Diana Ball. Okay, so he was sauce to the fucking gills. Okay, so he lost to a juice. Alrighty. Yeah, this is gonna be an interesting one. I'm gonna have to go with Rodriguez. Yeah. He's that guy from coming off the Contender Series. That's a big one. That they're trying to promote that as their new thing. So I'm gonna go with Daniel Rodriguez. Next up, we've got Antonina Shevchenko versus Ariana Lipski. So, Shevchenko is obviously the younger sister of Valentina, the current flyweight champion. Lipski is... I am not actually familiar with this girl. However, I can't believe that the UFC has not been shoving this girl down my throat. Because she's gorgeous. Oh, that's why. She's 2-2 in the UFC. Yeah, that is unfortunate. Decision. She lost to Calderwood and Molly McCain. She beat up 2 girls. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'm going to go with Shevchenko. I think that's... so far, this is definitely the most lopsided fight on this card, in my opinion. Yeah, when you got a girl this gorgeous and the UFC's not pushing her hard, there's a reason. Yeah, I think Shevchenko's going to fucking melt her, and they're going to cut her afterwards. They're going to cut Ariana or whatever. Next up, we got Joaquin Buckley versus Jordan Wright. Wow, this is the battle of, like, oddly sized body parts. Fucking Buckley's got, like, these, like, oversized pecs, and Wright's got an oversized jaw. This is like a match made in heaven. Jordan Wright, 11-0, won no contest. Joaquin Buckley, 11-3, 5'10" versus 6'2". Jordan Wright having the 4-inch height advantage, but only a 1-inch reach advantage. 6'2" reach for Buckley and a 6'3" reach for Jordan Wright. Leg reach again, 1 inch for Jordan Wright. Yeah, this one I think Jordan's gonna take this one. I don't think this is gonna be a like it could be a close fight, but yeah, I Joaquin Buckley. Oh, wait, no, this is the guy that got that fucking... Yeah, that jump spinning back kick. Ooh, that was nasty. But then, yeah, he lost it at the right cross on Kevin Holland. Yeah, oh, he's... Yeah, it's... That kick was so nice, though. Like... Who's Jordan Wright fought? The Beverly Ninja. Dr. Stompage. TKO. Jesus. Guy just murks people. No decisions. Yeah. Yeah, I gotta stick with that. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Jordan Wright. I think Buckley, he's super flashy, right? Obviously, his last fight he had the jump spinning back kick, but the problem is with he's fighting a guy from Jackson Wink, and he leaves himself open when he does that. And I would not be surprised if we get Jordan Wright's first decision. He'll take him and he'll hold him down. And like the Greg Jackson gym, once their fighters get to a certain level, they just act very smart. Like I'm not trying to say that, Greg Jackson kills MMA. A lot of people, they say that, but like once you get to a certain level, you can't be as flashy. You can't be as, well, you can be, but it usually bites you in the ass. And he has a good game plan and a good strategy once his fighters get to a certain level. And obviously, people might be mad, like, well, what about his lower fighters? And it's like, well, you can't, like, you just don't have time to do fucking 400 fight plans, right? You obviously got to pick the best ones and focus on them. So yeah, I think Jordan Wright is gonna win that fight. All right, next we got Brandon Moreno versus Brandon Royval. The battle of the Brandons, number 2 versus number 6 at the 125-pound division. So these guys very well might be the next fight for the title if Garbrandt stays injured for a while. That was supposed to be the title fight, obviously, and then he tore a bicep, I believe. So Brandon Moreno is 16-5-1. Brandon Royval is 11-4. Moreno is from Mexico. Royval is from the United States. 5'7" versus 5'9", with a 2-inch advantage going to Royval. 2-inch reach advantage, however, going to Moreno, and a half-inch leg reach advantage going to Royval. Yeah, so flyweight is obviously one of the least stacked divisions. Nothing against the little guys, but generally the further away you get from like 155, 170, those are like the average size humans. And then the further you get away from that, the less people there are, so the less talent pool you have to pull from. That's why heavyweight and flyweight are the thinnest divisions, is just because it's so far away from the average size. And I think what we see here is essentially one of those things where you have a mismatch, and it's not even like, I don't disagree with these rankings. I think 2 and 6 are fair rankings for these guys, but I think the problem with flyweight is that there's such a huge gap between all the different fighters because it's such a thin division. It's kind of weird because they tend to be like some of the best fighters in the game, because when they're sparring with guys training, they have to be better than them because they're not going to outmuscle them. So a lot of the flyweights tend to have like the higher skill ceiling, but at the same time, there tends to be the most variance within the skills, in the sense that like Demetrius Johnson stomped everyone and was finishing everyone, and then right below him you had, like, for the longest time you had Benavidez, right? And for the longest time nobody could beat Benavidez, but Benavidez couldn't beat Demetrius Johnson. And then you had a couple guys under that, but there was like this clear 1-2 and then a step down. And then you had Cejudo take the belt, and it was the same thing. It was Cejudo, Benavidez, everyone else. And then now you've got Davison. I kind of feel bad for fucking Benavidez because he's literally like the permanent number 2 of the division. Like, whenever the old guard retires, yeah. But, the division is still starting to build up, but it's obviously not as thick as other divisions. And that being said, I think Moreno is going to win this one. I think he's got the best chance out of any of the current fighters in that division that haven't been a champion before. So excluding Garbrandt, excluding Cejudo and Demetrius Johnson, I think he's got the best chance of possibly winning a title. Him and Benavidez. So I think Moreno is gonna take out Royval. Next up, we got Mauricio Shogun Hua versus Paul Craig. I hate to say it, but I think Craig's going to win this one. I'm a huge Shogun fan. I fucking love Shogun. Obviously, Shogun's been around forever. I mean, the dude's only like in his, what is he, 36? I'm going to Google this. He might actually be closer to 40 now. But he's actually not that old, considering how long he's been around. Mauricio Shogun Hua. Shogun Rua. What's his age? 38, yeah, so I was off by 2 years. Okay, but anyway, so, yeah, obviously Shogun's been around forever. He was the champion in, like, 2006, 7? When did Jones take the title from him? 2011. Wow. I thought it was earlier than that. Yeah, he was champion from the 24th of October, 2009, and then he lost it on the 19th of March, 2011. So he was champion for almost 2 full years. He won it, or sorry, no. He won it on the 8th of May, right? Because he lost the first Leota fight. I forgot about that. Yeah, so he was champion for just over a year. Beat Lyoto and then lost to Jones. He's obviously had an amazing career. But that being said, yeah, I think he's going to lose this fight. The last fight was a split draw. They fought back in, I think it was about a year ago now. Let me check. Yeah, November 16th, 2019. A draw with Paul Craig. So, but Craig is the younger guy. Craig the Bear Jew. So Craig being the younger guy, the bigger guy, he's 2 inches taller. He's got a 2-inch, almost 3-inch leg reach advantage. I think just the fact that they were at a draw last time favors him. I'm assuming Shogun comes in clean, not sauced to the gills. Maybe he'll pull a Vitor and fucking TRT kick fucking Paul Craig's head off. But realistically, the younger guy is always favored in the rematch, and it was a draw the first time, so I'm going to go with Paul Craig. I think that's a pretty obvious one in my opinion. Next, we got Caitlin Chikugian versus Cynthia Calvillo. So, Chikugian obviously fought for a title recently, and Calvillo is one of the girls that the UFC is pushing as possibly the next big thing. She fell victim to the curse of Kobe's fucking drink. I can't even remember what it's called anymore. But back when Kobe was, well, actually still alive. He actually kicked the bucket, which is kind of fucked. But back when he was still alive and he was doing UFC shit, like one of the things he was doing is he had that energy drink, and all three of the fighters he ended up picking, Ngannou, Cynthia Calvillo, and I can't remember who the last one was. It might have been Max Holloway, maybe. All three of them ended up losing their next fights after he endorsed them, which was kind of funny. And people didn't want the endorsement because they thought it was cursed. But anyway, Cynthia is obviously, she's young, she's attractive, and she's a really good fighter, and the UFC is pushing her very hard. Caitlin Chikugian, a little bit older. I think, actually, she looks older. She might not be. I'm not actually sure how old Caitlin is. I should probably Google that. Caitlin Chikugian. She is 31 years old. Okay, yeah, I think she's definitely older because I think Cynthia is only like 20-something. Oh, Cynthia's 33? Holy shit. Wow. I thought she was in like her mid-20s. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so they're both similar ages. Chikugian is a lot taller. She has a 5-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage and a 5-inch leg reach advantage. So, the size advantage obviously goes to Chikugian. That being said, Calvillo is one of the most athletic girls in the division. I wouldn't even just say the division. I'd say she's one of the most athletic girls in MMA, period. And especially when you talk about girls that aren't just like physically brutish, like there's girls that are like Liz Carmouche who like they're kind of just built like dudes, and then there's girls who have like that more like sleek feminine athleticism. They're more agile, they're more I guess as bad as it sounds, like Anderson Silva, like not that Anderson Silva's feminine, but there's a difference between like Anderson Silva's type of athletic ability and like fucking Alistair Overeem's, right? She's more like the Anderson Silva than she is the Overeem or the Brock Lesnar. If you understand what I'm saying with that. But so that being said, I think I'm gonna go with Calvillo. I think this is a tough one. This is a really good fight, especially now that I didn't realize Calvillo was that old. Before I realized she was that old, I was 100% gonna go for her. But knowing that she's actually 2 years older than Chikugian, with the size advantage, it makes it a lot closer. It makes me actually want to. Yeah, I'm kind of. This is a pick. I'm like fucking toss up in the air. Could go either way fight, but I'll stick to my guns and I'll go with my original pick of Cynthia Calvillo. Which I feel like that one might be the one that bites me in the ass the most. Next up, we got Mike Platinum Perry versus Tim the Dirty Bird Beans. It's good to see Means back. Is this his first fight back since he got that fucking bullshit PED charge? I think it is. Oh no, he fought in fucking August and February? What? He's fought twice? What happened to that? I thought he had a 2-year suspension. Apparently it was only like 2 months. Okay. Wow. How did I not know that? Means we getting that shit kicked out of him. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, anyway. Tim Means versus Mike Perry. This is another interesting one just because Mike, I would say Mike is probably the better fighter, but Means has an almost half-foot height advantage and half-foot reach advantage, and I think this is an interesting one. I don't think Mike Perry's the smartest guy on the planet, and I think Tim Means is smart enough to use his reach, and I think Means is going to use his reach and fucking gonna basically just use his reach to keep Perry away. If he's smart, at least that'll be his game plan. Yeah, honestly, these main card fights, his last two at least, have been really tough to pick. I don't know. I'm gonna go with Tim Means. I'll stick with Tim Means just because of the size advantage, and also Mike Perry. He's like freakishly athletic, but that dude's he's hilarious, but he's clearly not very bright. All right, next we got the women's 125, the flyweight title. Valentina Shevchenko, in my opinion, obviously the best 125er of all time. I'd probably put her top 3 women's fighters of all time. And then we got her fighting Jennifer Maia. A little bit less of a known fighter. She actually was ranked number 1 flyweight in the world when she came into the UFC. She was the Invicta champion. I don't think she spoke English at the time, though. I believe that's why they didn't put her on the Ultimate Fighter. And originally they were planning on having her fight the winner right away. But what ended up happening is she got signed. She fought Liz Carmouche. She lost to Liz Carmouche. So then that just kind of got thrown to the wayside, and she never ended up fighting for the title. But at one point, she was ranked as the number 1 flyweight in the world. So even though a lot of people might not know her, she does have experience in high level competition. That being said, Shevchenko is Shevchenko, and I think Shevchenko has a good chance of going down as the greatest female fighter of all time. I just don't see how Maia wins this one. I think her only chance is to get it to the ground, and I don't see her getting it to the ground. And even if she does get it to the ground, the thing is, for Maia is not going to be able to take Shevchenko down, I don't think. I'd be very surprised if she could. And I don't think Shevchenko is going to even try to take Maia down. And if she does take Maia down, I'm not sure Maia can stop her from controlling her. So, I just have to go with Valentina Shevchenko. I think this is another one of those. The 2 Shevchenko girl fights in this card are, the Shevchenko girls can fucking fight. Let's just put it that way. They're it's pretty bad when the champion fighting number 3, and I'd consider it a mismatch, right? There's Shevchenko, and then there's a huge gap, and then there's everyone else. So, yeah. Shevchenko. Next, we got Davidson Figueiredo versus Alex Perez. Obviously, Garbrandt, the former bantamweight champion, was supposed to be fighting, which would have been an amazing fight. But we got Perez. Perez is a wrestler, which actually does make this very interesting because the thing we've seen in the past with Figueiredo is that his weakness does seem to be wrestling. Like obviously he doesn't have a very similar striking style to Silva, but one thing he does have in common with Silva is that he's a good striker and he's good off his back, but he's not good off the transition between. So like if you watch Silva's old fights with Chael Sonnen, who's another good one? Luder. Pretty much any fight where he gets on the ground, right? He's not good at stopping takedowns, but the thing with Anderson, it was he's not good at stopping the takedown, but he's really good off his back and he's really good on his feet, so he doesn't need to be good at stopping the takedown, right? So even though their ground games and their striking games are very different, right? Like Figueiredo doesn't strike like Anderson Silva. His ground game is a lot different than Anderson Silva's, but in some ways they have the same strategy where it's I don't need to wrestle because if you take me down, I'll submit you, and if you don't take me down, I'll just beat the show out of you. That being said, Figueiredo has been working a lot on his wrestling recently. I think it was... which fight was it? It was one of his more recent fights, but he actually took his opponent down a couple times. And like we saw this even in the Benavidez fight, like the one where he won the title. Once he knocked Benavidez down, he was riding him much like a wrestler would when he was trying to wear an opponent down, grinding into him, really aggressive, top game jiu-jitsu. He wasn't always fighting from his back. So, while Perez does have the background that would be the background you need to beat Figueiredo, I think Figueiredo has been filling up those holes in his game to a point where he'll be able to keep a guy like Perez off of him. I believe Perez is an All-American, but I don't believe he ever won nationals. So he is a very, very good wrestler, but he's not a top caliber wrestler. He's, maybe a B-tier guy. Not a knock on him, but that's just the way it is, right? Like if you're not like a national championship winning guy, then you're one step below that, right? So I'll double check that real quick because I don't want to say he hasn't won a national title and then be wrong, but I don't think he has. I believe he was just an All-American. And obviously that's very impressive. So saying just an All-American is relative to high-level UFC fighters, because to the average Joe, that's insanely impressive. Background: 6th grade wrestling regional and All-American wrestler in sophomore year of college. Oh yeah, he was an All-American. So yeah, I believe that basically means you're like one of the top 8 guys in your weight class for your age group, I believe. I'm not sure exactly how the All-American system works, but he was not a national champion. This is going to be one of the better fights on the card, possibly a fight of the night contender. But I'm going to have to give it to Figueiredo. And I hope we get to see that Garbrandt fight after this. There's a lot of good fights for Figueiredo. I would like to see him fight Garbrandt would be nice. Dillashaw obviously has fought at 25 before. Henry Cejudo, even though I think he's trying to get a 45 fight. Mighty Mouse, but I mean he's in ONE FC, so that probably won't happen, at least not for the foreseeable future, unless Mighty Mouse gets re-signed. But yeah, I think Figueiredo is going to win this fight, and I think it's going to be a good fight. It's going to be probably the closest fight on the card, one of the closest fights on the card. But I'm going to give it to Figueiredo. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe. We will be doing multiple videos a week, including breakdowns of coming fights, news, probably some more documentary-oriented stuff at some point as well. That is obviously a little bit more difficult. It takes some more writing. You actually have to write that shit out. Whereas this, I can essentially just look at the fight card and tell you what I think more or less off the top of my head. With basically all I need is to know the fight card, what the fighters' records are. So with Google and UFC, I can pretty much do a fight prediction. A fight prediction is pretty easy, but the more complicated content, the more documentary, historical, martial arts content that I want to do will obviously take more time. But like, comment, subscribe, and there will be more news, more UFC fight predictions, and more MMA history videos, martial arts history videos coming in the future. So have a good one.